Hello and welcome back to Fulfillment Therapy. My name is Maddie, Kendra Nielsen's COO, and today we'll be listening to episode 279, Can a 3-Minute Microbreak Really Transform Your Mood as a Parent? With Mary Donahue. We hope you enjoy.
Welcome back to Fulfillment Therapy. Today we have a special guest, Dr. Mary Donahue, and she's the founder of the Digital Wellness Center and the author of Message Received, widely known as the Bible of Digital Mental Health. A pioneer in clean mental health, Dr. Mary has spent the last 5 years proving that happiness can be delivered straight to your inbox. Her MyStride products use neuroscience, microbreaks, and smart email design to help people regulate stress and stay balanced in a digital world. She's making mental health fun, cool, and easy. No detoxes, no shame, just brain science that works in minutes. So, super excited to have you on the show today, Mary. Thanks for coming on.
I'm very happy to be here. Thank you, Kendra.
Of course. So, tell us a little bit about yourself in your own words.
Well, I literally fell into this category of work for a couple of different reasons. Obviously, COVID, but also I had a heart attack because I was working too much. And I was spending too much time on digital and literally spinning during COVID because we lost our business. And we were chatting earlier before we started, and both of us have been with our partners for a really long time, but my partner was part of the business. And we just during COVID saw our whole business go, and we used our entire savings account to pay the rest of our staff so they didn't lose their jobs. Like, we were trying to do the right ethical things. And all that happened is we just spun further and further and further during COVID. And in the end, I think it was just a confluence of a whole bunch of different factors, but primarily not identifying and caring for self, which I was so busy taking care of others because of the COVID tragedy. I was taking care of my clients. I was taking care of my daughter. I was taking care of my husband. I was taking care of my mother. I took it all on. And your body just eventually goes, and we're done.
So all of this tragedy happening, you couldn't have been that old, and you had a heart attack and in the middle of COVID and all the stress already.
Yeah, I think it was closer to the end of COVID in Canada. We were locked down a lot longer than you were. It was just ridiculous. And I think that obviously adds to part of my frustration. But what happens is women don't even realize the signs of a heart attack. Like, I was at a competition with my daughter, and it was a 2-day thing, and it was a fitness competition, sorry. And I was really excited for her, and this was a really big deal to her, and she had worked towards a year towards this big finale. So all the time I was focused on her, and there were other things going on at the time, like what government was doing what, who was allowed to go where. Like, it was just all this news about everything and all bad news. And then I started not to feel well on the Friday. So, if you've ever had the flu, you feel draggy. And I have asthma, so I couldn't catch my breath when I'm running. I'm a runner. And at COVID, my mom moved in with us. So I started doing 10K every day. So I was like, oh, okay, that's a good way to get rid of stress. I love my mother, but we aren't built to live together at all. And so it was just like one big full house. And so I would run and run, and I was trying to finish message received, and I had been in a car accident, and that had played tricks on my memory, and I still can't produce properly because of it. So I felt that, okay, it's just another day of the flu, and I have a headache because of the car accident, and blah, 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 whatever. And then I couldn't catch my breath while I was running, and I had to turn back, and I thought, oh, maybe my puffers aren't working. And then the next day it was the same thing, and I couldn't run, and I didn't want to eat, and I was dragging, but I sewed the buttons on, and I made sure everybody got their dinner. And by the end of the day, at about 11 o'clock, by the time I got home, in Canada, we have a system where you can call a telephone number if you're not feeling well to get a diagnosis or what should I do. And I told the woman my symptoms, which were a bad flu, really bad indigestion, like really painful, and so tired I could not walk upstairs to go to my bedroom and go to the bath. And by the way, for some reason, all of this was my husband's fault. don't know why. And I was really already mad at him. Then she told me I was having a heart attack and to chew 4 aspirins. And I said, "You're 100% wrong. I don't have time for a heart attack. I have a really important meeting tomorrow. I have a big, huge speech the next day. There's no way that's going to work. And you're wrong. And you just don't know me. I need a bath and a ginger ale." And I hung up the phone because I had the flu. I knew I had the flu. And all I needed was a hot bath and a ginger ale. And that's what I told my husband. And he said, "I really think you need to go to the hospital. You don't look well." And apparently I was very white. And you can see me in the pictures with my daughter as white. I don't know about you. As a mom, your primary purpose and driver in the world is to make sure your child is fine. That's it. And she was fine. So now I was like, okay, so I'll just rest. Maybe I won't get up at 5 a.m. to run tomorrow morning. And then it hit me. The pain was so bad in my chest, I knew I was dying. And I had to turn to my husband because I was ready for a bath. So, I was naked. That whole thing about clean underwear, yeah, so not true. You should probably have clothes on when something bad happens. And so he was helping me get dressed to go to the hospital. And I had to look at him and say, "Hey, look, I'm sorry. You were right. Pretty sure I'm dying. I love you. Please let Jaya know I love her. And I'm out." That was it. And there was no repeat of life, no nothing. There was just this feeling of absolutely no regrets. Like, good life. And he had called 911 and then I think firemen came and something, but I remember being in the ambulance. We have a little old house, so the staircase is really narrow and they couldn't get a stretcher up, so they had to carry me downstairs. And I'm a very tall person, so I'm very long and gangly, and it was just like, I'm sure it was a comedy of errors because the dogs had to be locked up, and my daughter wasn't home, and I didn't want my daughter upset, and so I made them like she was in, I made them carry me by my hips so it looks like I'm walking. I said, "Oh, no, mommy's fine. I'm just gonna go to the hospital." And I'm pretty sure, like, ambulance, police, fire department had alerted her that I'm not that well. So by the time all that happened, I realized once I was in critical cardiac care that all these machines were keeping me alive were the same things that had killed me. Because I'd spent so much time working, so much time digital, so much time doing everything. Even when I'm running, I'm talking to people. I'm infamous for being on a call while I'm running. And your brain, I've learned, and I wrote about this in Message Received, isn't set up for digital. And we're killing ourselves, literally killing ourselves on digital. So I made it my mission. God allowed me to live. And I was like, I'm good. And I am going to change this world and use social and digital for good. And that's what I do.
So you had this big turning point that came when you had that heart attack and just realized, like, okay, I want to use my gifts for good. I want to pivot in my life and I want to help other people do it. So talk me through what happened next. Like, how did you pivot and how did you start on this path that you're talking about?
I became obsessive about my heart rate at first. And I started looking at when I was in an email, my heart rate would go to like over 100. I think it was 110 every time I was on email. But when I did do public speaking, my heart rate was 55. So clearly, that's a green light activity for my health. So I started looking at my heart rate when other things were going on. When I was texting, when I was FaceTiming, when I was all the time, my heart rate just soared to 100. And what I began to discover is because when we're on digital, we see information as negative when it's positive. And there's tons of research on this. And I think the book, The Man Who Forgot His Laptop, a Harvard professor wrote it. I forget his name right now, of course. Great book. But he said that 90% of what our brain sees on digital is perceived as negative. And so if your brain works this way, information comes here, this is where your language is. Your mammalian brain is right here. It's your middle brain. It's where your gut feeling is. And then at the very back of your head is fight or flight, your reptilian brain. And when you're on digital, which we've only been on since 2007, so your brain can't get used to it, you begin to perceive things wrong and incorrectly. And I can do a quiz with you and show you how that works.
I would love that.
Okay, you ready?
I'm ready.
Sit up. All right, I'm going to sit up straight.
Okay.
How are you?
Good.
How's your day?
Oh, so good.
I'm so glad because you've got a lot going on today.
You sure do.
Now, here's the interesting thing I did with 34,000 people. Sent an email, different people in technology, transportation, consulting, government, huge database that we were working with. And I said, how are you? Majority of people ignored that email because on average, people get 125 emails a day. 40% of them have to be answered right away. Then they have texts, then they have family stuff they have to do. 40% of 117 emails is a lot of work. Now imagine if you're a leader, you have 617 emails to answer. Still the same 40%, still the same family pressures. And so everybody ignored my email. And then when I said, how's your day? Across the board. What does she know that I don't know? What's going on? What's happening? Are we getting fired? Am I getting fired? Are we getting a new boss? Because that cadence, although it's very normal to your mammalian brain when we're speaking and being in the hall together or on the street, your mammalian brain goes, oh yeah, you've been doing that with your parents forever. This is how you respond. But in an email, you're not used to that cadence. And so you think about it negatively and your fight or flight goes in. And that's why when you're at work or you're on text, you can literally see your shoulders going up. You can see it in children. You can see it in adults because you're not processing the information clearly. And so that's what I began to work with. That was my journey. Red light, yellow light, green light activities.
I never even thought about testing your heart rate, like this biofeedback on what your heart rate does. Like, I wonder if it's a little individualized, like something stresses me out that maybe doesn't somebody else. But yeah, I notice it definitely like in my neck, my shoulders. I just feel more and more tense. Just like you said, I can feel that like creeping in and my shoulders rounding. But yeah, very interesting. I actually have a heart rate monitor on my watch. I should start checking it out and see. I'd be curious. So you started to develop this. What happened next after that?
And then I reached out to my former clients who couldn't use me during COVID. And they were some of the largest companies in the world, like Microsoft, Walmart, people I knew in the Canadian Navy, government people. And I said, hey, I would like to try something totally different. I would like to give microbreaks or microtherapy to all your staff. And here's my hypothesis. If I give it to them and don't share the data with you, so I won't know who does what. I'm just going to tell you your staff does this. And then I'm going to measure how they're feeling. So good day, bad day. And I want to see if it changes their mood. I want to see how they respond. And some people said, okay, I'll definitely pay for it. I'll give you $1,000 for it. But if you would put our brand on it. And I said, okay, like we weren't doing this for money. And we began testing it. And what began to happen is we began to see a higher trust in leadership. We began to see how people were feeling at certain times of the year when we're feeling red light, when they were feeling green light, when they were feeling yellow light. And it began to allow me to understand how globally we were experiencing stress. But in another way, I made it super fun for people. So I reduced their stress. What we did is we sent you an email that said, hey, Kendra, are you feeling like a beautiful sunny day and a flower enjoying the sunshine? Or are you feeling like a grumpy bunny in their hole? Literally like that. And you pressed one of the two buttons. Silly Billy. Absolutely nothing to do with the work, economy, the world, nothing. To everybody, Gen Z to 80-year-olds. And you know what happened? 80% of those people would respond. And if they picked happy or sad, they got a different microbreak. Everybody got a different microbreak. And then they went onto our platform that we developed content for. I got a great investor, Aaron, and we developed all this type of microbreak platform. So then we patented a scale that you could pick where you were. And just like Peloton, you'd get a specific workout for that mood. Guess what? Almost in November, it'll be 5 years. 74% of the people we started with are still using us. And they're just like, oh my God, this makes my day. And when we stop, I get emails. Mare, why aren't you sending me those silly emails?
That is incredible. I've never really heard of microtherapy like this before, and it can be super simple, something we're already doing. And if I'm understanding this right, for those different moods, and very simple, not a big time commitment, but something there's positive results with,
Yep.
like elevated mood, I'm assuming. Well, tell me, what do they report?
So we didn't want to report on the data because obviously we'd be biased. And so we asked a university in Europe to look at our results. And what they found is within 3 minutes, people who on our scale of 1 to 5 rated themselves as stressed or sad changed their mood to happy. So they went up 4 stages in the scale in under 3 minutes, 50% of the time. So what we found is the way we make micro breaks, and we use generational language and all of those wonderful anchoring benchmarks and things like that. We literally can change your mood faster than Tylenol can work.
Wow.
And that's why it's clean mental health. You begin self-care by choosing to engage. So when we send you an email, you choose to engage.
And then what about how long does it last? Are there any studies on that? Like that?
I haven't done that. I'm curious to find that out. And we're currently working in gambling right now to help people reduce, again, something based on a family experience. My brother bet too much money on a football game one Thanksgiving, and he looked like he was stroking out. So this is how I got into it. And there's some really great ethical companies. I'm dealing with a company called Flutter and FanDuel, and like they're supporting all of this. And then we have great regulators. The governor of New Jersey and his task force on responsible gaming said, oh my gosh, this proactive mental health thing is really cool. Let's explore it. So we've got people just beginning to start to look at this idea of proactive mental health and self-care. And that's why I really respect what you're doing, because you're talking about that all the time. And I really advocate for this idea for clean mental health, for people to start caring for self before there is a problem.
Absolutely. I'm so big into that. I'm so glad that you're doing that, and in a space that's not a big time commitment. You haven't talked about money. Is this something they opt into, or it's part of a company, or how does that look?
It is. We're commercializing it now. And there's a couple different ways that people can get it. But if your audience is interested, just connect with me on LinkedIn and I'll give it to you for free. My job is to heal people. So
Right.
that's what I need to do. And I'm happy to send it to you. And it's all family friendly content. We're
Mm.
not into any of the rude things. And if you're at LaGuardia very soon, you'll be able to see us in LaGuardia to help you calm down before a flight, because I'm also a really bad flyer.
That's a great idea. All these different ways that you can implement it. And there was really interested in what you said earlier about how 90% of the things that we look at digitally, we perceive as negatives.
Yeah,
Tell me a little
this
bit
is
more about your.
definitely true. So
Yeah.
when you perceive something as negative, that's because your mammalian brain doesn't have a pattern to connect. So your prefrontal cortex isn't connecting to the back of your brain, and that causes your fight or flight to kick in. So that's why we're seeing kids so stressed on social media, because they're seeing these perfect bodies or perfect things or perfect whatever. And we do it on Facebook. And our brains, this doesn't make sense. People aren't like that. I go out on the street and I don't see that. So we're working with great companies. For example, TikTok has reached out to us and said, okay, how can we work together to provide mental health? how can we look at this proactively? Because what we do on TikTok now is we've been using my dog to get people to click on a play here button to take a break on TikTok. And you can go back to TikTok, but we're starting to use social media for good. And I can't tell you how it's off the charts it is. Like I think we had 1,200 people just click a play button, and TikTok was expecting two. So this is how much we all want to relax our brains. In your brain, it's called transient hyperfrontality, where you clear your prefrontal cortex so your front brain and back brain can connect. And you feel those shoulders go down and your breath go down. But I suspect what's happening is Gen Z is able to identify immediately when they're getting too stressed and need to self-soothe. And that's where we come in. And that's what I hope we can. Anybody listening, you want to work with us on this, find me on LinkedIn and please come and help us, because this world really needs to change. Social needs to start being good. You need to use your capacity for good.
Definitely, such a worthy mission. I know I very rarely get on social media these days, just really for work purposes. And sometimes I have to post something, say on Facebook Marketplace. And the minute that I get on, it's like perfectly designed to make me forget everything that I was doing. And my mind is so many directions. And then I feel like, I don't know, almost like cheated and so angry that I have so little power, like willpower. And I just feel like I'm in this dark hole. So I would love to see some good come from some of these things more. Any platform, such a beautiful thing that you're creating.
I love the way you described it. I really do. And you should take your heart rate when you go on that. People, again, just self-diagnose, like red light, green light, yellow light. Think about it this way. Red light activities, your heart rate's over 80. Like you shouldn't be sitting and your heart rate at 80, depending on you. Like for me, that's my heart rate, but you can find that out on anything. AI can tell you what your heart rate should be at based on your weight and height. And then if you look at yellow light activities, those are typical things like banking or something like that. You see your heart, especially if you're looking at my bank book. But if you have green light activities, are things you like to do, are things that are part of your day that you engage with. And one of the things I also started doing was therapy. And I have a great therapist. His name's Mark Howerton. And he taught me a lot of these things because I needed to frame, not keep in all the anger I had over everything that had happened to me. I had to let that go because anger eats at you and social media feeds it.
Yeah, definitely. I think when you're talking about COVID, I was remembering that collective unconscious, like everybody felt so tense. There was just this tension all the time. Like I always felt like my shoulders were rounded and I was tense. Just so many feelings, big feelings. And that's when I stopped watching the news. I'm like, I cannot do it anymore. I feel so overwhelmed. So just disconnecting from so many things really helps me. My daughter likes to remind me whenever I go on a tangent. She says, Mom, it's not going away. We just have to handle it better. And I'm like, that's well said.
That's
I love
exactly
that.
right. That's my mission, teach people how to handle it, because a lot of my colleagues were in research sort of poo-pooing the idea because I wasn't telling people to get off their phones. But the medium is the message, as Marshall McLuhan said, and 82% of adults can't put down their phone. So anything you design to help people has to be able to be delivered on the phone.
That's a big number.
Yeah, it's crazy. One of the things I recommend to people to start is something that I do, even in freezing cold. And I know in Idaho, you get the freezing cold too, is 20 minutes a day in the morning outside, just with a cup of coffee or a cup of tea or a glass of water. And if you can't go outside, sit by a window and do nothing. Just have quiet. Allow the chemicals in your brain to set. Like, you've had a wonderful sleep, I hope. If you're not sleeping, get off your phone and just allow yourself to listen to the world and not listen to what people want you to think about the world, but to listen to what your brain wants to hear in the world. Your brain is so selective. Like this morning in my quiet time, it was all about the birds. And I'd like to imagine I could hear the lake. And the wind and all of those things. And then my daughter called and she said, Mommy, I can hear the birds that are around you. And I said, I know, they're just so busy. But that time is your time. And you alluded to it earlier. Digital is stealing time from us. And we need to take that time back and find our green light. What makes us cool? What makes us happy? Because we don't do that.
Oh, beautiful message and purpose. I love those things. And I'm curious, tying this back to my podcast, so fulfillment therapy, I like to ask guests that come on what they are doing personally, maybe even in the last few weeks, to really deepen that fulfillment. Maybe it's connected to this, maybe it's something else. Do you mind sharing?
No, not at all. I would definitely say two things that I have been working on. Message received was let out in the second round of COVID. So it got no attention at all. And yet it's really well. So I started to say to myself, okay, like, how do we relaunch that book? And I used to be on television. Do I go back on television? Do I do a podcast? Like, I started thinking about things because it was so horrible for me to put all that effort into writing that book. McGraw-Hill gave me a lovely advance. And then it was just, yeah, we sold like 10,000 copies.
Yeah.
And that was it. Like, I thought it was going to be the bestseller of the world. I'm sure every author does. But then also in terms of fulfillment, because my anxiety can go up, bringing such a new thing into the world and people not recognizing it and not wanting it because people don't want to change, is I've actually started asking clients, what stops you or convinces you to buy my product? And just having deep conversations about that and learning from them. And then that allowed me to hear, I don't know how you do it. I think you're an Irish witch, but somehow through the internet, I get your positivity and love. And to me, that was like, okay, that's a really good day. I need to just, now my life is starting to be fulfilled because I am able to use this medium that's so cold to, with my entire team, bring joy to people every day, every minute, every second, as long as they engage. And that to me is a life well lived. And so if I think back to when I was going to die, I think, okay, again, no regrets. I am using my talents. I struggle with the money issue, but that's okay. And then I really feel like this is my Apple moment. This is how I am changing the world. Steve Jobs, look out, buddy. I've actually taken what you've done and made it a whole lot better for people.
That's incredible. Thank you so much for sharing your mission and how you have deepened fulfillment in your own life and also brought that to other people. That is something so much more fulfilling than a lot of us don't get that opportunity or don't build that opportunity depending on their situation. And I'm so grateful that I get to do this, you get to do that, that can do things that really bring greater fulfillment in our lives with our jobs. So thank you for what you do.
Thank you so much. That's so heartwarming. I appreciate that.
Do you have any final, maybe mantra, quote, anything you'd like to share with us as we close today?
Just be well. Just take time, be well, and take good care. You just never freaking know when the end is coming. So enjoy every single moment.
I love that. Be well, slow down. I love how you talked about just being outside, slowing down enough. Just a good reminder. I love nature. I love being outside. The slowing down sometimes I have to remind myself.
For me, I love being with my dog now. We rescued a dog.
Uh-huh.
And I'm just like, this is the best thing I've ever done in my life.
Yes, absolutely. I love cuddling my kids. Nobody's up when I get up, but can you please tell us where we can find you?
The best place to find me is on LinkedIn. It's Dr. Mary Donahue. I'm on LinkedIn. Please do connect with me on LinkedIn. I would be more than honored. And I really appreciate this time on your podcast. So thank you. Enjoy. I know you've got a big day planned, and I appreciate you taking time for me.
And thank you again. And we will put your links and everything like that in the show notes so that they can find you there.
Thank you so much for listening. As always, please head over to our website, fulfillmenttherapy.org, to sign up for our email list, as well as to see our courses page. We have poured a lot of time and effort into these courses and would love to have you join us, especially as we're having our sale now through January 2026, 25% off all of our courses. Please head over to our previous episodes to get our code for that 25% off because we would love to have you there. As always, have a wonderful week and we will see you back here every Monday and Thursday.